I'm going to turn your microphone back on. I'll try it. Is that it?
No, still.
Okay.
Sorry, bear with me. For some reason, our video got dropped. That's a fucking problem.
Ultima, silver in color, in Elena de la Rosa, 4520 North 110th Street.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Capacity here is
Sorry, I'm trying to download that video so we don't lose it. I don't know why it dropped our feed. Because there's not enough people that know about it. And I think I'm the only one live streaming this, so mainstream media covered the first day, but I haven't been in court, so I don't know if they're there. There was only one camera allowed to record.
All squad respond to Madison Park. All squad respond Madison Park. Did you copy? Copy now, so go ahead. 305 is out with the subject to Madison Park, Brad, please, hang on. Affirmative, and lead on.
You're gonna have to wait, Zona, till the end of this.
Madison Park, all squads. 305, are you okay? You're fine, I'm okay. Suspect down. Dispatch copy. Suspect down.
So I'm stopping the audio at 5 minutes and 5 seconds.
And is that something that you're going to submit on a zip drive or what?
I'll submit on a flash drive.
Flash drive, okay. I don't think it's fruitful to try and replay that. It's really not something that we can hear based upon the sound system as it exists. I think if it's entered into evidence and you and the detective are both familiar with it and have been able to hear it, then you can proceed with any questioning based upon what's contained on that.
Okay, no problem, Your Honor. Thank you. For the record, I'd like to put that at 58 seconds into the audio recording, we can hear Mensa calling in the license plates of the car. Is that accurate, Detective Burns?
Yes, it is.
At about 1 minute and 23 seconds into the audio, we hear the dispatch coming back with the license plate and who the car is registered to. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that goes on for about 7 seconds, from 1 minute and 23 seconds and 1 minute and 30 seconds. Is that okay?
Yes.
And then a little over 2 minutes later, at 3 minutes and 33 seconds into the audio, we hear "Step it up. He has a gun." Is that accurate that at about 3 minutes and 33 seconds, we hear Officer Mensa saying, "Step it up. He has a gun"?
Yes.
At 3 minutes and 40 seconds, we hear dispatch saying, "All squads respond to Madison Park." Is that accurate?
Yes.
And a little over a minute later, at 4 minutes and 42 seconds, we hear Officer Mensa saying, "Shots fired, shots fired." Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with regards to the 2 minutes and approximately 3 seconds between when the dispatch comes back with the plates and who the car is licensed to Mensa saying, "Step it up," according to the police reports that you reviewed, what are they talking about?
What is
Officer Mensa and Jay Anderson Jr., what are they talking about for over 2 minutes?
before he says he has a gun?
Correct.
According to Mensa's account, Mensa is approaching the passenger side of Anderson's car after he pulls facing Anderson's car front to front and asking him if he has ID. And he says that at one point he sees Mr. Anderson looking towards the front passenger seat of his vehicle. After he looked, maybe a couple times, Mensa looked and saw that there was a gun. And then he told him to put his hands up several times. And he says that they went up, I think, 4 times. And that on the 5th time, he says that Jay Anderson lunged his body towards the gun and that he fired.
So in that over 2 minute conversation, do we know why Officer Mensa told Jay Anderson to put his hands up?
Well, he says that he saw Anderson looking towards the front passenger seat. And then when he looked down, he saw a gun. And at that time, he told Mr. Anderson to put his hands up.
Mm-hmm. At that point in time, did Officer Mensa know that Jay Anderson had committed any crimes?
No.
Did Officer Mensa explain why he was in the park in the first place?
He said he was just doing a park check.
Okay. And as far as you know, and reading the police reports, was Madison Park within his area to, to check on?
No, it was about a half mile outside of his assigned patrol area.
But according to Officer Mensa, we know that he went to Madison Park, which was outside his control area, at least according to him, twice that night, correct?
Yes.
And he said he went there at 12:30 a.m. for a routine park check.
Yes.
And was that verified?
The 12:30 time was not verified, no.
And should that have been verified in relation to this homicide investigation?
Yes, it should have been, because he said that when he responded at 12:30, there were two cars there, and that he turned on his red and blue lights, which would have activated his dash cam, so it would have captured the event on video, and that was never checked.
Okay. And do we know, based on the Antonio Gonzalez shooting, if Mensa had any problems with turning on his squad video with regards to that incident in July 2015?
Yes, upon review of reports in regards to that incident, I learned that prior to arriving at the Antonio Gonzalez incident, that Mensa turned off his red and blue lights, which would also turn off any video or audio recording of the incident.
And do you recall if any other officers responded to that scene with regards to Antonio Gonzalez?
Yes, and Officer Newman.
Okay. And do you recall how long Officer Newman was at the scene?
Officer Newman was at the scene 3 minutes, and Officer Mensa was there for 1 minute.
And for the record, Your Honor, we're referring to Exhibit 69, which is Stephen Biscuich's report on page 30. So Officer Newman was present for 3 minutes, and Officer Mensa was present for 1 minute at the Antonio Gonzalez incident.
Yes.
And Officer Mensa turned off his squad light going to squad camera, the video recording going to the scene.
He turned off the red and blue light, which if he had left it on, the dash camera would have recorded the incident.
And at that point in time, he had only been an officer for 7 months, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall if any other officers turned off their red and blue lights or turned off their audio microphones in responding to the Antonio Gonzalez incident?
According to the reports, Mensa was the only one that did that.
Okay. Now, getting back to Jay Anderson, let's talk about sort of the bullet wounds to Jay Anderson Jr.
Okay.
Do you recall how many times Officer Mensa fired his weapon on June 23rd, 2016?
6 times.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to show some exhibits. They are going to be graphic. I have talked to my clients, and before I show them, I'd like to give them the opportunity to decide whether they want to stay or not.
Sure.
This is going to be actual video photos of the wounds in Jay Anderson's head. If you guys do not want to see this, I don't know, log off. These are fucking graphic, and they may be showing the car. This is, you don't want to see this if you've never seen this. And if people can refrain from calling me Sweetie and Hun when you're
Your Honor, I'd like to
a fucking right winger,
present to
please.
the court what's been marked as Exhibit 81. I will also provide this on a flash drive. Let me share my screen.
I don't appreciate being called Sweetie and Hun by Trump supporting people. So please don't do that. And no okay fucking symbols. That shit gets deleted.
Yes.
The one that she's showing? What exhibit are we looking at?
This is a compilation of the photographs. I'm gonna give this to you all as one exhibit, if that's okay.
And that exhibit will be?
This will be exhibit, let's see, sorry.
If you guys are watching this through a restream right now, come to the source. It's Never Stop Media.
81,
And
You're
this is
about
gonna
to
be
see-
comprised of photos we've already marked and reviewed.
that's correct.
Very graphic pictures right now.
And Your Honor, I'd like to do the demonstrative evidence now, if that's okay?
I mean, is there any reason why we can't just go with the original number designation? Because it's getting a little unnecessarily confusing.
Sure. Can I
Typically
just get a
it'll-
minute to mark it
They
correctly?
should already be marked with the first, when you use them with the ME.
Yes.
I'm just suggesting, let's just go with the
Oh, that's fine.
original designation.
That's fine. Okay,
Mhm.
I don't need a compilation exhibit.
no problem. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, I've looked at your profile because you guys all have the same
So the first
fucking
picture is gonna be
shit
exhibit
with your
23.
sweeties and hunt. Just
So I'm gonna ask my assistant to
tread
come and
lightly
join me.
here on my platform right now. Okay. Peace. I'm just gonna fucking block you right now. Fuck off. This is a wrong fucking time to irritate me. Every time, these right-wing fucks with the sweetie and the hun and the hearts, I already fucking know. So then I start looking at your profile and you're a Trump supporting fuck. Fuck, piss me off. The wrong fucking day for that, people. It's the wrong time for this shit.
I suppose.
Do you mind giving your name correctly?
My legal name is Orobola, Oroebola. My last name is Akimoladun, AK.
So once again, people, we are about to see some very, very graphic pictures. If it's not
I
something
feel like I
that
was set up on that.
you feel you might be able to handle, I would definitely
Go
tune
ahead.
out of this. These are extremely graphic.
Oh, that's fine.
And so, please pronounce your last name. Mr. Kimaladu, he is he's representing Jay Anderson.
First letter was what, O?
Yeah, oh.
Let's make it easy in the court report. Let's call Mr. O for this hearing.
Okay, thank you. And he-
Yeah, can we switch the fucking camera
So
view?
Mr. O is representing Jay Anderson Jr., who is sitting in his vehicle at Madison Park, okay?
All right.
And I am Officer Mensa,
Okay.
all right?
Excuse me. I think you should pull that microphone closer to you and speak into it so that can be heard.
Can you guys see that?
Broadcast.
Sorry. It's whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. I can't really see what they're doing here. Oh, shit.
So first, we're gonna talk about
Shit.
entrance exhibit, wound number 1. Actually, this is exhibit,
Move closer to the microphone.
sorry, this is exhibit 23. That's already been entered into evidence.
Fuck, I don't know how to show you all this.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough
I have
of
report pictures.
showing Jay's fucking head.
Well, maybe this one wasn't. This is the only one that wasn't. The other pictures are. Sorry.
Right, and you can make, if this one was not marked, then you can use the next available number for this one, and then,
Number 24. This would be then exhibit 93.
You guys can see this?
because this one has not been marked before.
They're like doing some
I'm
type
sorry.
of demonstration.
No, I'm asking you.
I thought it was, but I was mistaken. So this will be a new exhibit, exhibit 94.
Which I'd rather fucking look at. Jesus.
93, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
So exhibit 93, what we're looking at are all 4 entrance wounds to Jay Anderson Jr. Do you see that, Detective Burns?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we're gonna take each of the wounds one by one, all right? So let's go to exhibit 24. Exhibit 24 is to the left and exhibit 25 is to the right. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So based on Mensa's testimony, do you see me?
Yes.
Okay. So am I standing in around where you believe I'm standing?
Yes, Mr. O is standing, I'm sorry, Mr. O is sitting, facing me, and you are standing to Mr. O's immediate right, from about 4 feet away. So the front of your body is perpendicular to the front of Mr. O's body.
And we know that Mensa's passenger side window was rolled down, correct?
Mr. Anderson's passenger side window. Yes, we do know that.
And based on Officer Mensa's testimony that he gave to Luke O'Day, he stated that Mr. Anderson was lunging for the gun, correct?
That he lunged with his body towards the gun, yes.
So Mr. O, could you please lunge with your body towards this chair, the passenger side? Okay. Now, based on
These are all just expert
Officer
witness
Mensa's
people.
account, and where Officer Mensa was presumably positioned to where Mr. O is now, could that have created this entrance bullet wound?
No, because of the position of Mr. O's body, the lunging position, Mensa could not have shot him in the side of his head or the side of his body.
Now let's go to the next slide.
So the guy talking
This
is the
represents
same one that was up
Exhibit
before.
26, which is on the left,
Burrows.
and Exhibit 27 that's on the right. Now let's just talk about, sort of shootings in general. How fast would Mensa's bullet have traveled from where he was standing to Mr. Anderson?
Well, a .40 caliber bullet, and I'm not an expert on firearms, but I'm familiar with the velocity of a .40 caliber bullet is approximately 1,200 feet per second.
So would Mr. Anderson have had time to, for instance, launch his body, then come back before the bullet hits him?
No.
Okay. And in terms of shooting at Mr. Anderson, where does the blood splatter go? Like, how does that work?
Well, that's excuse me. That's another thing that concerned me in looking at this incident is that if Mr. Anderson had been lunging into the passenger seat, a couple of things would have happened. First of all, his bullet wounds would have been in the front of his body, be it the front of his head or his upper chest, or even the top of his head. Secondly, a bullet strike is very high impact. It's an explosion, and there's a lot of power and energy. So what happens is that when a bullet strikes someone in the head, it displaces the contents of the head, being the blood, the bone, the brain matter. So you get something that's called blowback, which is that matter being expelled from the entry wound. And then if the bullet travels through and comes out the other side, you'll get spillage from the other side also. So there was absolutely, and I observed, the photos of the vehicle as well as the video of the vehicle, and I was looking to see if there was any blood in the passenger seat, on the passenger side, in the passenger door, the floor, the roof, the dash. There was none. There was none on the top surface of the center console. All of the blood was in the driver's seat, the driver's floor, the roof of the driver's seat, the backrest, the pad or the bottom where your legs and your butt are, and also through the driver's headrest. So that tells me that when Mr. Anderson was shot, that he was facing straight ahead because Mensa was perpendicular to the front of his body, and the bullets went into the side of Mr. Anderson's head, and also because of the blood that Mr. Anderson, when he was shot, he was in the driver's seat. Additionally, the significance of being shot in the head, and they train this in sniper training, is that when you shoot someone in the head, it's like turning off the light switch. It stops all motor movement. So if Mr. Anderson had been lunging towards the passenger seat, that's where his body would have been. He would have, even in that position, and Mr. O is leaning towards the passenger seat. When they found his body, he would have been, at least, if not in the passenger seat, at least leaning towards the passenger seat. The investigative reports, one of the officers describes Mr. Anderson as sitting upright in the driver's seat with his head back, and I think it's tilted one way. But most interesting to me is that his hands are described as being in his waist or in his lap. So there's no way that he could be shot while extending or leaning or lunging towards the passenger seat and then afterwards be upright in the driver's seat with his hands in his lap.
Because presumably, if Mr. Anderson was lunging, his body would have fell right there.
Absolutely.
In lunging position.
Absolutely. And I also want to say that it is consistent. And I looked at the video numerous times and never did I see a lunge. I saw the hands going up and down, but never a lunge. And the movement of the hands were consistent. Never did they change. I mean, actually, I would have been able to understand it if Mensa had said the first time Jay's hand came down, he thought he may have been reaching for a gun. But he let this happen 4 or 5 times. So that should tell him that this kid is not reaching for a gun. He didn't do it the first time. He didn't do it the second time. He didn't do it the third time. He didn't do it the fourth time. He's not reaching for a gun.
And also, presumably, if Mr. Anderson is lunging and is shot, there would be some blood splatter in the passenger side area or in the middle console, correct?
Yeah, and that's what, when I mentioned earlier, the blowback, there would be both blowback, which would appear as like a spray onto the center console or the passenger side of the vehicle. And even if he lunged, there might even be some spillage. So there was none of that. Everything was in the driver's seat and on the driver's side. There's even blood on the roof of the above the driver's seat, which tells you that explosion, that spray happened while he was in the driver's seat.
Okay, thank you. So let's address bullet wound number 2. Based on Officer Mensa's interview with Luke O'Day, again, he's saying that Mr. Anderson is lunging. If Mr. Anderson's body was in this situation where he's lunging, could Joseph Mensa have created that bullet wound?
Now, when you say bullet wound number 2, are we talking the head or the ear?
Sorry, the head. Talk about the upper head.
Again, that is to the side. So no, that would not have occurred in that type of lunge, no.
Okay, and we're looking again, for the record, at exhibits number 26 and exhibits number 27. So let's go to exhibit number 28, bullet wound 3. Based on Mr. Anderson's position, as Officer Mensa stated, of him lunging for the gun, based on Mensa's position, even while he was moving back, could he have made this shot if Mr. Anderson was in fact lunging?
No, this bullet wound is to the face, but it's to the side of the face, not to the front of the face. That lunge, again, the bullet wounds will be in the front of his body, not to the side.
Okay. Let's go to bullet wound number 4, exhibit 29. Now, we're looking at the right upper shoulder. Do you see that bullet wound?
Yes.
Now, how do you think this bullet wound was created?
Well, if you look at the video, at one point, Jay's body jerks towards the driver's door. And I think that's how it happened because of the trajectory. The medical examiner mentions the trajectory. If this wound had occurred while Mr. Anderson was lunging, the trajectory would be at an angle headed down towards his left hip, but it's not headed in that direction. It's almost opposite of that, if I remember.
So let's look at Mr. O lunging again. So based on his lunging position and based on Officer Menso's position, as you reported to Luke O'Day, could he have made this shot?
Well, again, he could have made that shot, but it's the trajectory because he's standing above a lunging subject, and he would be shooting down at an angle. So the trajectory would be headed down at an angle again towards his left hip. But I think the trajectory actually goes either straight or a little upwards.
Okay, so let's look at bullet number 5.
Now,
Bullet strike 5. Now this will be labeled as exhibits 94 and exhibits 95. These are new pictures. So bullet strike number 5, we see an entry. This thing will let me do it.
There you go.
Yep.
I see the arrow.
Yeah. So that's where the bullet wound is. The bullet hole is right there, right?
In the headrest.
yes,
To the right of the headrest. Do you see that?
yes.
And according to the picture, the exit of bullet strike number 5 was also to the back left of the headrest. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So looking at where Mr. O is, the headrest is right here, right?
Yes, it's behind his head in the driver's seat.
So Mr. O is lunged.
No, if he was shooting at a lunging person, the bullet would not be in the vicinity of the headrest. And let me just say this about Mensa. The wounds to Anderson's head and body would be considered a tight shot grouping, which indicates to me that Mensa is a pretty good shot, and that the bullets landed where he was aiming. This fifth bullet strike has a lot of significance because it shows that Mensa was aiming towards the upper part of the driver's seat. I mean, this is not an errant shot. This is where Mensa was aiming. He was not aiming towards somebody leaning down or lunging down or someone reaching towards the passenger seat. He was aiming up towards the head area of the driver's seat. This bullet right here, even though it's in the headrest and it may seem insignificant, it's very significant because it shows where Mensa was aiming.
And based on the picture to the left of exhibit number 94, this bullet presumably shattered the back window.
Yeah, the bullet, it looks like the trajectory is, it's from right to left, but it's also from front to back, and it exits and shatters the rear driver's side window.
So based on your training experience, you can say that at least with these 5 shots as fired by Officer Mensa, they're inconsistent with someone lunging towards the passenger side. Is that accurate?
Yes, the shots and even the video of Mensa shooting, yeah. And the fact that there's no blood on the passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay.
Is that the end of the questions regarding the bullets?
Not yet.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. Yes, it is. And the question regarding the bullets.
Should his family be invited back in?
Yes, please.
I have a couple questions when we
Okay.
get to it.
Would you like me to put the slides? Are you good? You
No,
need some- okay.
my questions are more foundational since we're on a non-adversary proceeding, a pro se proceeding. I feel the need to do a little due diligence here. You have training in reconstruction of shooting,
Yes, I do.
and can you describe briefly what that was?
I've gone to I think it was a week-long course on reconstructing and drawing crime scenes. And again, the reconstructing and drawing of crime scenes is part of the routine of homicide investigations. In addition to the formal training, I have been mentored by more tenured detectives on how to reconstruct and how to draw crime scenes. And I just want to say it's not something that you get overnight. It takes repetition before you're able to reconstruct a crime scene. But I've done it, again, over 1,000 times.
Now, in those that I'm familiar with, typically things like rods are used.
Yeah, trajectory rods, yeah.
Yeah, and things. So my question, my concern is, I don't believe any of that was done in this case. And I'm concerned about why that didn't happen. But aside from that, I'm also concerned about the extent to which you're able to reach conclusions without those steps having been taken.
Well, I agree with you. Trajectory rods should have been utilized in this, as should have some type of reconstruction. But that's why I said that when you look at the video and you can see where Mensah was standing when he was firing, if you look closely, you'll see that he was not pointing his gun down towards the passenger seat. But it is, and I'm not a mathematician, but it's just a matter of angles that when you consider the manner in which Anderson was hit, that you know that Mensah was, his body or the gun was perpendicular to the front of Mr. Anderson's body when he was hit. That's why he's hit in the side. If Anderson had been facing Mensah, he would have been hit in the front, which brings up another point in regards to Mensah alleging that Mr. Anderson was reaching for a gun. I don't know if you shoot, Your Honor, but one of the most important things about shooting is target acquisition, which is looking at your target. If you're not looking at your target, you're not going to hit your target. Another aspect of target acquisition would be if I was to pick up this bottle, before I picked it up, I would probably look at it. You can surmise that if Jay was going to pick up a gun, especially with a spotlight shining in his face, he would look down to locate the gun, reach for it, bring it up, acquire Mensah as a target in order to shoot him. So he would be looking at Mensah and then fire his shots. All while Mensah already had Jay in his sights. And I know we haven't got here yet, but we looked at the video, and also based on Luke O'Day's reports, Mensah had Jay in his sight for 19 seconds. He had not just target acquisition by looking at him, but he actually had him in the sights of his pistol for 19 seconds before he fired.
And even if he hadn't lunged, if he had, let's say, just reached to the side, it's still likely, is it not, that he would have turned his head at that point and thereby received a different line of fire.
Absolutely. And that's the point. And the thing is that you don't have to be a detective to see that. It's just logical. or reasonable.
Yeah, those are always words that concern a court. Depending on who's saying it. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have just a few more questions, Detective Burrow. I'm going to share my screen again. And now let's just talk very briefly about blood and matter spatter. I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 76. And this is a photograph that was taken
More
by
graphic.
Milwaukee Police Department
If you guys don't want to see this, jump off.
that I received from the Wauwatosa Police Department. Now, what I want you to focus on, Detective Burhams, is the white cell phone, the money, and the white piece of paper on the passenger side door. Do you see that?
Yes,
And have you had a chance to review this before court today?
yes,
Do you see one speck of blood or any type of human matter on the passenger side seat or on the white cell phone, the money, or the white piece of paper on the passenger side door, floor?
no,
Do you see any blood splatter on top of the middle console or in the middle console area, period, based on the photographs that you've been shown?
no,
Yeah, I mean, the Andersons have seen this stuff before. April.
You see my screen? Okay. Share. Here we go. Now I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 77, which is a close-up photograph of the white piece of paper on the passenger side floor. Do you see that?
yes,
And it looks like a piece of paper, right? Based on the wrinkles in it.
yes,
Do you see any blood splatter or any human matter on that white piece of paper?
no,
If Jay Anderson Jr. had been lunging for the gun, as Officer Mensa indicated, would you expect there to be some blood splatter on that?
yeah, I would. And again, it's because the expelling of that matter or that fluid or that blood would be instantaneous. And an analogy would be as if you stood over a bucket of water and dropped a baseball in it. As soon as the baseball hits, the water is going to spray out of the bucket. And, you know, that's a good analogy to explain how instantaneous that expelling of the matter is when a bullet hits somebody in the head. It happens right away. There is no delay, and it's a spray.
And it's basically, like you said, an explosion.
Yes,
Okay. Now, you looked at the police reports from the Milwaukee Police Department investigators, correct?
yes,
And in their police reports, we see sort of some oranges stuff that's on the passenger floor. Did they note that as being
Along
anything of
along the
significance?
console, you mean there?
No, this is the floor, the passenger side.
yeah. It's
That's what I'm talking about, but it looks like there's a little orange reddish mark above the piece of paper on the screen. I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes.
yeah. There's a report by again in homicide investigations. Different detectives are assigned to different aspects of the investigation. And I noticed in this one, they had a detective that was assigned to the scene itself, but then they had another detective that was assigned to the car. And this detective puts in this report that all of the blood matter evidence in the car was on the driver's side and that there was no other evidence in the car.
So what we're looking at in terms of this orangish, sort of, whatever it is, stain that's on the passenger side door, it looks like it's a stain. That was not noted as blood splatter or blood matter, correct?
No, and I would hope that if it was a blood splatter or matter, I mean, it would be of the utmost importance to include that in a report, but no, it's not in any report.
Right, but presumably if it were, we'd expect to see it on the passenger seat, on the top console, not just in that area of the floor of the passenger side, correct?
Well, yeah, you would expect to see that. Now, I have seen situations where, like when a body is moved, especially with head injuries, because the blood it congeals like jello, where if you move or shift the body, some might tumble down, but even then there would be like a trail, and there is no trail. And when this trail, if this happened in this case, would be from the top to the floor, from coming from up to down to the floor. It wouldn't be a sideways or a linear trail.
And just two more pictures. I'm going to refer to Exhibit 37, which is a picture of the outside of Jay's car as given to me by the Wauwatosa Police Department. Presumably the body was moved over the driver's side seat, correct?
Yes.
And so in this picture, the blood that's on the cement, that's, consistent with the body being moved out from the driver's side seat, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we know that it wasn't moved from the passenger side.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Last question. In the police report, Officer Mensa indicated that Jay Anderson had an extended clip in his gun. Do you find that to be an accurate statement?
No.
What kind of clip did Jay Anderson have in his weapon?
He has a clip with a hand grip on the bottom. An extended clip is I think this is a 9 or a 40. But this magazine held 17 rounds. An extended clip, you're talking about a clip that holds 25, 30 or more rounds. And this is not an extended clip. It just has a little handle on the bottom to help with gripping.
So what I'm showing to you is Exhibit 47, which has already been marked, which is Jay Anderson's Ruger gun. This is the clip that's shown in this photograph is the clip that's normally would be bought with a gun like this. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Detective, I've got a couple questions. I don't know if this agreement came into existence after you retired, but there's currently an agreement between local police agencies that in the event of a police shooting, one of the other agencies will take the lead in the investigation. And my question is, have you been involved in investigations of other agencies that involve the police shooting?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And in this case, there are concerns, and perhaps you reviewed some of the materials that while en route to the scene, after being advised that the investigation is being turned over to MPD, that there was essentially evidence was moved around at the scene, including the ID, the firearm, and we had a lieutenant testify this morning, I believe you were here, as to them canvassing, I believe, a local, for lack of a better word, old age home. And so my question to you is, when you were involved in this type of investigation, is it proper for the jurisdiction which you are investigating to take any role once they're advised that the investigation is being turned over?
Well, I was here for the testimony of, who's the last guy to testify?
It was Lieutenant Roy and Chief Weber.
No, the psychologist.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I was here for all three. And this is the you have to understand police culture, in that you are, as a police officer, from the time you're in the academy, you are trained and programmed to protect other police officers. Now, I remember earlier on when I first became a detective and I would become involved in police shootings, the culture was to help the officer who was involved explain or justify the shooting. I'm just being honest with you. Even if he may have been wrong in some way, even if he was confused as to why he did the shooting, you would say something like, you were in fear for your life, you thought he had a gun, he was reaching. Now, that being said, that's why that law exists, is because, in my opinion, as a former police officer and detective, police agencies are unable to objectively investigate their own shootings. And you do see it. You see the reasons right here in this investigation, because the only thing that the Wauwatosa Police Department should have done was to secure the scene, to make sure that it was not disturbed, to make sure that it stayed in the same condition that it was in when the crime occurred, and to administer any type of first aid to Jay Anderson. That's the only thing they should have done. There was no reason to move the gun. There was no reason to allow Mensa to manipulate his vehicle. There was no reason for them to go to Madison Elementary to obtain video, because video can be tampered with. There was no reason for them to do any type of canvas, because you don't even want to create the possibility that there could be some improprieties and some bias. But you see it here in this investigation. So I hope I answered your questions, Sharon.
You did. Anything further?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Detective. You can step down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to conclude today's hearing and broadcast. We will set some additional dates off the record. Those will appear in CCAP very shortly. Or tomorrow. That's
All right. So that's going to be the end of that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the stream just because I don't want it clouded with a lot of conversation, especially since we did that already in the part 2 or part 1. So I'm going to end this, and then I'm just going to come right back. Plus, I need to put the warning graphic shit on this stream ASAP. So I'll be right back, ending this and immediately coming back.